think introduction.
Hello. My God. Can see me talking on the phone. So we can start ke macam mana? Okay, good morning to everyone and welcome to the workshop. Actually, I can't hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sharleena and William?
Yes,
we
Yeah,
can.
can. Okay. Welcome to the workshop and thank you everyone for joining us today. I myself I'm Vaishnavi Gunasegaran. I'm the Pegawai Technical for Public Speaking Sekolah Rendah. Sorry, I'm just a bit messy here. Okay, so the reason that why we have this workshop is we want to actually educate the teachers and also the parents and some of the kids on what is actually public speaking is. Okay, so that's the main reason why we actually organize this workshop. Okay, and then so I've actually introduced myself, and then I'm also going to introduce my speaker, Mr. William. Okay,
Yes.
William is a teacher in SJKC Manming. He has a experience in storytelling. And also, I would like to introduce the second speaker, Madam Sharleena. She is a teacher from SK Senaling Kuala Pila. She is a former debater and also a public speaker. When it comes to the workshop, it's the best that the person who has experience in it, they actually say something about it. Okay, so today we're going to have 4 slots altogether. The first one would be introduction to public speaking, and the second slot would be strategies of public speaking. These 2 slots will be covered by Madam Sharleena, and the third slot, the do and don'ts of public speaking, as well as overcoming anxiety, will be the fourth slot, and that would be covered by Mr. William Hoy. Okay, I would like to take this opportunity to actually thank Mr. Khairiman. He is the penolong pengarah for Sektor Pembangunan Bakat Murid JPN Melaka. So I would like to thank him for giving us an opportunity to conduct this workshop. At the same time, I would also like to thank Mr. Ami from PPD Jasin, okay, and also Mr. Tiba, Pegawai ICT for Public Speaking Negeri Melaka. Okay, thank you everyone. And as we are aware, we're going to have 3 keywords throughout the entire workshop, so that we want to make sure that everyone actually follows the workshop. Okay, so throughout the workshop, I would actually be giving out the keywords, and you can actually note this down in order to fill up your attendance form. Okay, and the speaker actually requested that we make this into a 2-way session, just so that they don't really feel like they're presenting so much. So I think I would actually prefer that too, so that we can have like a healthy interaction between all of us. So I think that's about it. Any question that you guys want to ask first before that?
You mean as the speakers?
Do you mean us?
No, we
or
have no questions.
We don't have any
Okay,
questions.
so I think if there's no question, can we actually start?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so before we start, let me just give you the first keyword. Okay, you can actually note this down. The first keyword would be practice. Okay, the first keyword would be practice. All right, okay, I would like to invite Madam Sharleena to start.
Okay, thank you very much, Puan Vaishnavi. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I would just like to put my slides in present now. Okay, can you all see the slides? Hello?
No,
No.
no. I can't see your slide.
Yeah, I can't see it too.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, it is presenting. Okay, good.
Okay, visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay.
Clear.
Okay, so thank you very much once again, Madam Moderator, and I would like to wish everyone a very good morning. To all of you who are present here today, my fellow speaker, Mr. William Hoy, as well as all the other participants who are here virtually online. I'm aware that there are many teachers and students who have tuned in today to learn a thing or two about public speaking, as well as many other people who would just like to have an idea, a general idea. That is what we are planning to portray today, just a general idea of what public speaking is, as well as what it takes to be a confident speaker. So before I begin, I would just like to say that I'm aware that public speaking is always viewed as something very difficult and very technical. But in reality, it's actually something that is very close to us. The opportunity to speak in public is always there in our everyday life, and it's just up to us whether we are willing to make use of the opportunity. So hopefully today, through our slides and what we present today, we will give you an idea of what it takes and awareness of the tips and pointers of becoming a confident public speaker, and hopefully you all will find it beneficial to you in one way or another. Okay, so let's move on to our first slot, Introduction to Public Speaking. Okay, let's have a quick brainstorm. Take a look at this comic clip. Okay, so the husband says, "What's the matter? Is something bothering you?" And then the wife says, that class on public speaking that I'm taking at the junior college, I have to give a 45-minute talk. There's no way I can talk for that long. And then the husband says, just hold the phone up to your ear and you can talk for hours. Okay, I'm so sure that you all can relate to this. In fact, me, when I'm having a conversation with someone, I can definitely find the words to have a longer conversation compared to when I'm giving a public speech. Okay, so just think about that for a moment. How is public speaking different from a conversation? Okay, there's no right or wrong answers to this. It's quite subjective. You can post your comments in the comment section there just to get the community of online viewers here talking and having a discussion. We won't call you out, don't worry. Okay, you can share your ideas. Okay, what are 3 differences between public speaking and conversation? Further down the slides, we will get to that. What are the differences? Okay. All right, so here's an overview of the first slot. The first one, what is public speaking? I'm going to give you the definition and as well as the types of speech that is involved in public speaking. Secondly, we are going to compare the similarities and differences between public speaking and conversation. Thirdly, the communication speech. We are going to look at 7 elements present in the communication process, as well as how the speaker can make use of these elements to most effectively deliver the speech. And lastly, varieties of public speaking. There are 2 purposes in your public speaking. One is to persuade and one is to inform. Okay, we will look at them one by one. Right. Firstly, what is public speaking? Stephen E. Lucas, an author of the Art of Public Speaking book, he said that the need for public speaking will almost certainly touch you sometime in your life. Just like what I said earlier, it is closer to us than we think it is. Okay? Okay, so here's the definition. What is public speaking? It is the act of speaking to an audience. Okay, what is the purpose of you speaking to the audience? It is to share your idea to the public for the purpose of influencing them. Okay, so this is much more than just speaking to a group of people. You have an idea in mind and you are planning to inform them, to persuade them of your idea and to influence them in that way. Okay, so how is public speaking significant to us? Firstly, in the workplace community, we may think that now since we have internet, we can just post our ideas online and public speaking is no longer as relevant as before, but it's actually not true because studies have shown that employers, they rank public speaking skills as one of the top elements when they want to hire or promote a person. Okay, so in your workplace, public speaking skills are extremely significant. Secondly, your community life, which is related to your civic engagement. For example, in your own community, in your own neighborhood, if you're in the committee, or even if you're just not in the committee but a common person, you will need public speaking skills to present your ideas, to express your ideas in order to impact issues that matter to you, and in such a way you can make a difference in your society. All right? And then let's move on to the types of speech. We have 4 types of speech that are extemporaneous speech, impromptu speech, memorized speech, and manuscript speech. So let's look at the first one. Extemporaneous speech is when the speech is prepared very carefully and in detail by the speaker in advance of the speech. However, this preparation is just in an outline form. It's not very detailed. So how the speaker is going to deliver the speech, the choice of words, everything is at the moment of the delivery. The preparation is only in a draft form. Okay? So this is a very advantageous type of speech because you get to plan in detail beforehand, but at the same time you have a conversational quality to your speech, which audience actually appreciate this because you sound less rigid and more spontaneous, more natural. Okay. Secondly, let's look at the impromptu speech. This is a speech where the speaker has little to no immediate preparation for the speech. This is when you are suddenly called to give a speech, for example, at a meeting. Then you have to deliver an impromptu speech, right? Thirdly, the memorized speech. This is for the shortest of speeches, okay? Like when you're giving a toast or when you're giving an acceptance speech, you just have a very short speech script and you memorize it word for word and deliver it. It's not suitable for lengthy speeches because then you're so busy trying to remember the words that you forget to engage with your audience, right? And then the final one, manuscript speech, is when the speaker has to deliver the speech based on a manuscript word for word. For example, in a school when we have National Day ceremonies or Teachers' Day ceremonies, we will have to deliver the speech of the minister, for example. So you have to deliver from the manuscript. Right? Everything okay so far? I hope that everything is clear and crystal for everyone. If you have any comments or any questions, you can feel free to post it in the comment section below.
Thank you, Sharleena. Thank you. Now we finally understand what's the difference between public speaking and actually conversation. Because people say that, talk is cheap. But talking is not that easy after all.
Yes. Okay, so can we move on? All right. Public speaking versus conversation. This is to answer the comic strip earlier. What is the difference? There are many more actually. I'm just covering the basics here. First, let's look at the similarities between conversation and public speaking. Organizing, adapting, and tailoring is what we do both in conversation and public speaking. When you speak, you organize your thoughts logically so that when your audience receive it, it is more systematic for them, easier to understand and easier to remember. Secondly, you will adapt your message to the listener's feedback. Not all the time the listeners get to verbally vocalize their feedback, but as a speaker, when you speak, you look at their facial reactions and you understand whether they are clear about what you're speaking or are they blur. So accordingly, you will adapt your message. Maybe you have to rephrase, or maybe you have to repeat or give more examples, okay? And thirdly, tailoring. You tailor your message to your audience. Who are your audience? Are they small kids? Are they school-going students? Are they your colleagues? Are they your family, in fact? Okay, so according to the audience, you will tailor your message. Those are the similarities. Now let's look at the differences. Obviously, public speaking is more structured in the sense that there's a more detailed planning involved and there's also a time limitation. So it tends to get more detailed and more structured compared to conversation. It's very unlikely you have notes before having a conversation with someone, right? Okay, secondly, in terms of formality, public speaking is more formal because there is no room for slangs and bad grammar. Okay, when you have a conversation, you are free to use your choice of words and your slangs. But if you have slangs and bad grammar in public speaking, then you give a negative impression to your audience. It can affect your credibility as a public speaker, and thus it will also impact your effectiveness of message. Okay. Next, the speech communication process. Okay, let's look at this. There are 7 elements in this speech communication process. First, the speaker, the one who is delivering the message, the listener or the audience, and then the message, which is the speech that you are delivering to the listener. The channel is the means in which this whole communication takes place. And then the feedback, which is what the listener gives off to the speaker, like I said earlier. And the situation is the the setting, the physical setting, the time and the place in which all this is taking place. So as a speaker, you have to be aware of all these elements. As you're speaking, make sure you portray a positive personal credibility. Make sure you show that you know what you're talking about and you're well prepared, you're sensitive to the need of the audience, and you're enthusiastic about your topic. So then the listener will take it positively. Okay? And then the message is not only the verbal, it's also the non-verbal. What you're speaking, your tone of voice, your facial expression, your gestures, all this will play an important part in the message that you're portraying. Okay? As the listener, however, how you are presenting your message will not be 100% accepted in the same way by the listener because they have a different frame of reference. They have a different prior knowledge, different attitudes and values, so they will receive it in a filtered form. Okay? So as a speaker, you have to tailor your message to be more audience-centered, right? Next, the feedback. The feedback, like I said earlier, it can be, it is based on the facial expressions and the body language of your audience. When you see, accordingly, you must notice, you must be alert to these reactions and you must adapt. Okay, don't just keep going if you notice your audience seem to be not clear about what you're speaking, right? And next one, what have I not covered? Channel. Okay, the channel is the means by which the message is communicated. Like if you're giving a speech in a hall, usually you have the microphone, so that is the means. Or if you're speaking directly, then you are the means. If you're using a telephone, then the telephone is the means. Okay. And most importantly, the situation, in fact, can also play a very important role. Is it the time of the day or is it at night? Is it a comfortable place? Is it very compact and uncomfortable? Okay, is it indoors or outdoors? All these will play a role in this process. All right, now let's look to the varieties of public speaking. We have two forms, to persuade or to inform. Some speeches you give about questions of facts, values, and policies. Some speeches you give to inform your audience about certain objects, processes, events, and concepts. Let's look at some example of topics here, just to give you an idea in case you're thinking of what should I speak about, okay? So the example of topics for facts, for example, Selangor will experience major floods next year. So you're trying to persuade your audience that this is going to happen and what they can do about it, right? How about values? Bicycle riding is an ideal form of land transportation. Maybe your value is an environmental value and you're trying to persuade them to switch to bicycle riding instead of motor vehicles, all right? And then thirdly, beginning a regular exercise program, that is a policy. Next, to inform. If you want to inform your audience about an object, for example, what to look for when buying a smartphone, how a tsunami develops, that's the process, the history of the Olympics, that's the event, and basic principles of Aikido, which are concepts. So these are some of the categories that you can look into in selecting your topics. Okay, so we have finished our first lot, and now we are moving on to our strategies of public speaking. Is that okay, Madam Moderator? Am I coming out clear? Okay, Madam Moderator.
Yes, Sharleena, we are quite clear, but there's a request to slow down the presentation.
Oh,
Maybe it's slightly a
okay.
bit difficult for the students to actually catch up. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try. Okay, in fact, that is one element I'll speak about later, rate of speech. I myself am speaking quite fast. Okay. Strategies of public speaking. All right. Okay, let's have a brainstorm session once more. So this the wife says, "Hey, what's with the suit?" And the husband says, "I'm presenting a report. I believe that this makes me appear more prepared and confident in my presentation." Ooh. So what are you going to say in your report? And he says, "I have no idea." What? I'm going to crash and burn, but I look good. Okay, so this is one strategy. It's just one strategy of how you can prepare for your public speaking. There are many other strategies besides how you dress and how you look. Okay, so what do you think? How would you prepare if you were to give a public speech? Think of 3 things that you would do. Okay, this is also something you can put in the comment section. Okay, now let's have an overview. Beginning and ending the speech. We are going to look at introductions and conclusions. How do you start and how do you end your speech? Secondly, we are going to look at how to use language in your speech. Thirdly, how you're going to deliver. Speech delivery is about your non-verbal. Using language is about your verbal. Okay, let's look into more detail on this. beginning and ending the speech. There are three things that basically you should do in your introduction, and it should be in this sequence. Get your audience attention and interest first, and then you reveal the topic to them, and then you give them a preview of the body of your speech. Okay, let's look at the first step. Get your audience attention and interest. You can do this in many ways. Okay, relate the topic to them, or you state the importance of your topic, arouse their curiosity, question them, begin with a quotation, or tell a story. Okay, let's look at the first one. Relate the topic to the audience. Okay, people tend to pay attention to things that affect them directly. So like I said earlier, be more audience-centered. Try to talk about something that they can relate to so that they will tend to tune into what you're speaking about. Okay, number 2, state the importance of your topic. Demonstrate the significance. Why is it important what you're saying, and why should they tune in? Give them a reason to want to listen and pay attention to what you're speaking. Thirdly, arouse their curiosity. Okay, this can be done by putting in an element of suspense just to make them want to further listen until the end, because they want to know how it ends or what are you going to talk about. Later on, I will give you an example of an introduction with that element. Okay, fourthly, question them. Okay, you can pose a series of rhetorical questions. They don't have to answer the questions. Just give them a question. Just put out the question. Give them pause a moment. Let them answer that question in their mind first, and then you can move on to the next questions. Okay, all this will get them engaged in your speech. Next, begin with a quotation. Okay, quotes don't have to be famous quotes. You can be any quote, but just make sure they are brief and they are effective, and they definitely have to be related to your topic. All right, and finally, tell a story. Everybody loves a good story, right? So you can just tell a brief story, make sure it's also related. Usually provocative or dramatic stories will be more effective. In fact, you can tell a personal experience as well. People will be glad to hear. Okay. Second step, reveal the topic. Don't beat around the bush. Once you're done getting your audience attention, straight away mention what is the topic that you're going to talk about. Even if the MC beforehand has mentioned that that you are going to speak on this, you have to restate the topic. State it clearly and concisely so that your audience won't be figuring out what exactly you're trying to talk about. Okay, don't keep them guessing. Thirdly, preview the body. Make sure there's a preview statement where you identify the main points that you're going to talk about in your speech, just to give a general outline to the audience so they know what they're going to listen to. Okay, so let me give you an example of an introduction. If you're going to, for example, speak about a disease, for example, hypertension. Okay, so this is how you can start if you want to use the element of arouse their curiosity. Okay, so this is how you can say. It is one of the most chronic diseases in Malaysia, controllable but incurable. It is a symptomless disease. You can have it for years and never know it until it kills you. 6.4 million Malaysians have this disease, and odds are that 15 of us in this hall have it. What am I talking about? Not cancer, not AIDS, not diabetes. I'm talking about hypertension. Okay, so that is the part where you arouse their curiosity, because you didn't straight away go to the topic. You just gave them statistics and clues. And then you go to reveal the topic. I'm talking about hypertension. And then you give them the preview statement. The goal of my speech today is to inform you about the symptoms and serious consequences of hypertension. Later in my speech, I'll share a plan with you for preventing this dangerous disease. But first, let's start by taking a closer look at the problem. Okay? Now let's look at the conclusion. Okay, the purpose of the conclusion is to signal the end of the speech, just to let your audience know that, okay, now we are coming to an end. All right? And then secondly, it is to reinforce the central idea. How can you do so? By brief cues. For example, you say, in conclusion, in a nutshell, let me end by saying, all these are brief cues that let your audience know. Secondly, the manner of delivery. Your tone, your pace, how fast you speak, how loudly you speak, all this can indicate that you're off to the end. Okay. Secondly, reinforce the central idea. You can give a summary just so that they can remember and leave with the ideas that you have put in their mind, as well as a quotation. Like I said earlier, make sure it's brief and effective. Next, let's go to using language. How can you use language effectively in order to portray your message the best? Firstly, use language accurately. How can you do that? Pick words that most precisely capture your ideas. Remember that when you have any doubts, just consult the dictionary for the best choice of words. And the fancier word does not make it the better pick. Sometimes people think that if they use big bloated words, they can impress the audience. But if it doesn't accurately portray the message that you're trying to convey, then you have failed your goal lah. Okay. Let's look at some examples here. Situation, state, and condition. These are three words that are synonyms. Situation, state, and condition. But they do not mean exactly the same thing. Different words have different shades of meaning. Look at the example of sentences. Okay, some words will fit better for some of these sentences and some words will not. Okay, so make sure you have the best choice of words. Right, next, using language clearly. A speaker's meaning must be immediately comprehensible. Your audience must not be the one trying to decipher what you're trying to say and try to get rid of the interference themselves and understand what you're trying to say. You must make yourself crystal clear. Okay, how can you do that? Number one, use familiar words, plain talk, and words of common usage. Okay, sometimes when you're speaking about a topic that is very specialized, you tend to use big words and words that are not familiar to the audience. So make sure that you use familiar language. Okay. Secondly, choose concrete words. Concrete words are words that are tangible to the audience. Okay, so make sure you're more specific. Concrete words always give a specific idea, make it more interesting and easier to recall. Okay. Fourthly, eliminate clutter. Clutter is something in your speech that tends to deviate from what you're trying to say by putting a lot of words inside. Okay, so make sure your message is lean and crisp. Don't add too many flabby phrases. Avoid redundant adjectives and verbal fillers. Verbal fillers are words like, some people when they speak, they say, in order to get along, we have to, compromise. Okay, so these are kind of words that you should avoid. Okay. Next one, using language vividly. Vividly means you paint a picture through your speech so that your audience can better understand and visualize your message. Okay, use imagery to make your ideas alive. What are imageries? Once again, concrete words. Concrete words will help them paint a mental picture of what you're trying to say. Take a look at the example. The air is soft, but 70 years ago, the air was dense with smoke and the cries of men. So when they read this, they can imagine it in their mind, okay, because of all the concrete words used. Next, simile. Walking into my grandparents' home was like being wrapped in a giant security blanket. Okay, similes you use when you're trying to make a comparison, an explicit comparison. You use words like. Okay, like being wrapped in a giant security blanket. But try to avoid the cliche similes like busy as a bee, happy as a lark. All this will make your speech very dull because it's too much of a cliche. Okay, and next you can use a metaphor. Metaphor is an implicit comparison. For example, the earth has a fever and the fever is rising. You don't literally mean that the earth has a fever, but the audience can understand that you are trying to talk about global warming. All right. Next, exploit the rhythm of language to impact your words. Okay, the rhythm of language. When you, for example, use repetitions and alliterations. Repetition is when you emphasize the idea that you're trying to say by stating it more than once. And so you create a strong emotional effect to the audience. For example, if not now, when? If not us, who? If not together, how? Can you see the repetition there? So that creates an impact on the audience. Secondly, alliteration. Alliteration is words or phrases or sentences that you use that has a similar sound. For example, nothing great is accomplished without cooperation, compromise, and common cause. Can you see the C-O there? Co. Right. So all this alliteration will catch their attention when the audience listens to it. It will make the ideas easier to remember. Okay. Next, using language appropriately. How can you use language appropriately? Make sure that your speech is appropriate to the occasion, appropriate to the audience, and appropriate to the topic. Okay, in the occasion, if it is a formal occasion, how are you going to address your audience? If it is a casual one, how are you going to address them? Make sure your speech is appropriate in that way. All right, next, appropriate to the audience. If your audience are common people, avoid the technical words. You want to use common language like I said earlier. And also pay attention to language that is offensive, okay, especially probably topics related to race, religion, and all these sensitive topics. Okay, you have to be careful and use appropriate language. Right. Next, appropriate to the topic. The language that you use must be straightforward explanation, but sometimes you can use special language skills. Once again, it depends on what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, what's most important is that the message that you're trying to convey should be clear and appropriate to your listeners. Okay, next let's move to speech delivery. Speech delivery, like I said earlier, is the non-verbal aspect of your speech, not the verbal one. The verbal one we just covered just now, right? Okay, let's look at this fact. Studies suggest that effective presentations are 38% your voice, 55% non-verbal communication, and only 7% your content. Okay, so all the preparation of your notes and your outlines is only 7% of your content, but so much is given, so much weightage is for the non-verbal communication. So this is what we are going to look at today. Firstly, the speaker's voice. The speaker's voice in what terms? Volume, how loudly or how softly you speak. Pitch, how high a tone or how low a tone you're speaking in. Rate, how quickly or how slowly you are speaking, like I was speaking quite quickly just now. Okay. Pauses. Pauses is when you delay your speech or you stop for just a moment before you continue your speech. Okay, there's a purpose for that, not just simply pausing for no reason. It can be distracting. Okay, and then pronunciation, how clearly you say, how correctly you pronounce the word or each sounds in the words. And next is articulation. Articulation is how clearly you say it. Okay, let's look at it in more detail. Volume. When you are speaking, make sure you adjust your volume to the room acoustics. That means how big the room is. Okay, is there echo in the room? Okay, are the doors open or are they closed? All this will affect how loud you need to speak. And then secondly, the audience size. If it is a large crowd, how loud should you speak? If it's a small crowd, use your indoor voice. Okay. Thirdly, background noise. Sometimes when you're speaking, there will be some loud traffic noise outside, or maybe somebody is mowing the grass very loudly, and even the audience can be quite noisy sometimes. So with all this background noise, you have to try to overcome that and try to grab your speaker's attention through your volume. Okay. If you speak too loud, you may appear rude. If you speak too softly, people can't understand you, right? So you have to find the balance. All right, next let's look at pitch. Use inflections to convey meaning and emotions. When you speak in a high tone sometimes and in a low tone sometimes. Okay, but avoid being monotonous. Monotonous is you just speak in a straight line and there's no inflection in your tone. Okay, so these inflections, make use of it to portray your message. Usually when you're speaking about something very emotional or something very impactful, you speak in a higher speech, whereas if it's not something that important, you speak in a lower pitch. Okay, thirdly, the rate. How fast or how slowly you speak. Vary your speed according to the mood you're trying to create, the audience composition, and the nature of the occasion. Okay, if you're trying to create a dramatic mood, then you're probably speaking very slowly and emotionally. Okay, or if you want some anger or you want some provocation, then you're probably speaking faster. Okay, audience composition. If the audience consists of people who are of old age, you might want to speak a little slower. Okay, and then nature of the occasion. If it is a happy occasion, you'll probably speak a little faster compared to a somber one. Right, next let's look at pauses. Use pauses to signal the end of an idea and give an idea time to sink in. Once you have just presented your point, pause for a while and then go to the next one. If you rush on to the next point, then the audience won't get time to digest what you're trying to say. Okay. However, you should avoid vocalized pauses. Vocalized pauses is when you say those are vocalized pauses. That means you are pausing, but you're also vocalizing it. Okay, it can be quite distracting for your listeners. Secondly, articulation. Speak crisply and distinctively. Okay, for example, the word don't know, we tend to say don't know. Want to, wanna. Going to, we say gonna. Okay, so avoid this kind of articulation. Break all this careless articulation, and you can only do it through practice. It doesn't come easy, I understand. Even I myself when I speak. Okay, next one is pronunciation. Avoid mispronounced words by practicing in front of trusted people. So when you speak and someone notices that you're mispronouncing a word, they can correct you. And of course, you can also check a dictionary. All right, this is the final part of our second slot, the speaker's body. Personal appearance, movement, gestures, and eye contact. Let's look at them in detail. The personal appearance, make sure you dress and you groom appropriately. Keep with the occasion. Make sure how you are dressing is appropriate. If it's a formal event, dress formally. If it's a casual one, dress casually. Okay, because your audience, they will see you first before they hear you. So make sure you are neat and tidy. Don't look very rugged because it can affect your credibility as a speaker as well. Okay, secondly, movement. Some people, when they are speaking, they tend to fidget with their notes, or maybe they will shift their weight from one foot to another, or they will be moving. All these kind of movements are distracting mannerisms which stem from nervousness. Actually, they are nervous and that's why they're doing it. Sometimes they don't even realize it, but your audience are watching you like a hawk. So you have to be aware of this. Next, gestures. Your gestures means your hand movements. Okay, they should appear natural and spontaneous, and they should help to reinforce your ideas, not just for the purpose of having gestures you move your hands. Okay, however, these gestures should not distract from your message. Okay, make sure that your hand movements are there only when necessary, and it should appear natural. All right, finally, eye contact. You have to look at your audience 80 to 90% of the time. Okay, no, if you're staring at your notes all the time, you're not an effective public speaker, and the likelihood is that the audience themselves won't be looking at you if you don't look at them. Okay, and make sure you look at the whole audience. Sometimes when we speak, we tend to only look at a certain part of the audience, maybe our friends who are looking at us and giving us moral support, so we're looking at them. Or sometimes we're only looking at the VIPs because we want to impress them. Okay, but try to look at your audience 80 to 90% of the time and look at all of them so they all feel included. Okay, so that is the end of my slots. I hope I wasn't too fast. I was just trying to keep to the time allotment. Please forgive me. All right, so your question and answers, if you have anything that I can clarify, please don't be afraid to put it in the comment section below.
Thank you, Sharleena, for the explanation. I think that's quite clear because we learned a few things on how to be effective speakers, not only in our speech, but also the way how we dress up. Maybe we can say our body language and everything. So it's very clear that public speaking, it's not only about the speech, but it's also about our body language as well as our clothes. The clothes that we wear actually reflect on our level of confidence. Okay, so any questions here that anyone would like to ask? Anything in the comment section? So I assume everyone is quite clear about it. Okay, so now we have finished 2 slots. Okay, the first one is introduction to public speaking, and also the second slot on strategies of public speaking. Okay, so thank you, Madam Sharleena. Thank you so much for sharing. And friends and students, I would like to remind you again, the first keyword is practice. Okay, the first keyword is practice. And since we are at the end of the second slot, okay, before we start with the third slot by Mr. William, okay, let me just give you the second keyword. Okay, I hope everyone you can actually take note of this. The second keyword would actually be speech delivery. Okay, speech delivery. Okay, that would be the second keyword, and shortly I'll be sending a link for you to actually fill up the attendance form for the teachers. Okay, the attendance form, and also a feedback form. We would appreciate some kind of feedback so we can actually further improvise our upcoming workshops. Okay, thank you very much. If there isn't any question, I would like to invite Mr. William. He's going to start with the do and don'ts of public speaking. Mr. William, are you okay to start now?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, can.
Can you hear me? All right. Okay. I shall start now. So. All right. Now, can you see my slides?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I will be taking over from my partner, Madam Sharleena. And good morning. I am William Hui from SJKC Manning. All right. Now, I'm going to present about the do's and don'ts in public speaking. Now, there are some points where it might be overlapping with Madam Sharleena's point. So now, there are many do's and don'ts in public speaking. What are the common do's and don'ts that you know? You may comment in the section below in YouTube. All right. Now, this is my overview about the do's and don'ts, and I will try to explain my points by referring to the current situation, which is presenting your speech online, virtually. Now, the first point, you have to know that you must know your audience well. You must know your audience well. The message of your speech is intended to whom? Whom? Whom are you talking to? Now, your speech is about them, not you. So you don't have to focus yourself. You have to focus them. All right. Now, since most of the viewers here are mostly teachers or the students of the schools, so most likely you will be participating in competitions of school levels, district levels, or even state levels. So the juries or the judges are mostly teachers. They are from the education field, or they are the commoners of the society, the normal citizens of the society. So what you should do is you have to understand who they are so that you may choose a good theme, a good topic that can relate to them, right? Now, you may choose some related topics such as educational issues, or you can talk about those social issues, the happenings that around us, right? You select the topic that we, the judges or the teachers, can relate to. You ensure the content and the language is appropriate to them so that they can understand what you are trying to convey, right? And you should be avoiding sensitive issues, sensitive topics, because these kind of things are like sensitive, and it might forfeit your whole presentation. Now, and you might try to avoid speaking those deep topics such as financial situations of Malaysia or inflation rates, economies, or deep scientific talks, as it may not able to relate and engage with the audience. They don't know what you are talking. Even though you are presenting well, you know your material well, but they don't. Right. Now, the next point is to be yourself. During the preparation, you have to be yourself. During the presentation, you have to be yourself. You have to be yourself on that stage. Now, you should unleash your inner self. You have to be yourself, okay? The audience prefer a real talking person that is trying to communicate with them. They don't prefer speech talking robots, right? So to the speakers, you try to enjoy yourself, or at least look like it. You try to enjoy the speech that you are trying to deliver. However, and you should unleash your personality in a controlled manner. You shouldn't be expressing too much of your personality, nor too less. So you should believe in yourself, and you are in charge of that moment. You are in charge of that speech. You are going to be conducting the whole situation. Now, you may learn and imitate others during your preparation process because you watch videos of others. You try to listen to other speakers, the way they speak. You notice the way they walk or the gestures they are doing. But at the end of the day, when you are going to present, you should be yourself. You should be yourself. Having your own personality is vital. All right, the next thing is no reading. Now, I added this point in as we are having online competitions. Now, for those competitions that are the normal competitions pre-COVID era, so face-to-face competitions, public speaking, you won't be reading much notes. There won't be any chances for you to read notes. But since we are now doing it online, most of the competitions we are doing it online, you should try to avoid reading. All right, avoid reading, and you should maintain eye contact with the audience. I read one of the comments just now, and they asked what happened. What should we do? What should we? Where should our eye contact be? Since we are now presenting virtually, facing the lens. Now you just take it as the lens is your audience. You should always keep an eye contact with your lens, which is your audience. Now, because readers are easily spotted, I know there might be someone like having notes or having scripts behind the lens, behind the camera lens. But readers are easily spotted. You can see from their own small details of gestures. Now, when you are being spotted as a reader, you will be perceived as you are not an expert on that field you are trying to present. You are not expert on that topic, right? Now, and you portray an image that you are not well prepared. You are ill prepared. And it shows that you are having a low self-confidence. If you don't have a good image, so the audience will have bad impression towards you. Now, you should be having simple, organized, structured speech, and you have to learn the speech by heart and the flow of the speech by heart. All of this is to avoid you from reading your notes, from reading your script. Now, the next will be, since we are having a good tips on knowing your audience, no reading, then we proceed on how to organize your materials. Now, material organizing, you must have an organized structure in your speech, right? You have to eliminate inconsequential details, those unimportant details, you should get rid of it, all right? Now, you should keep the speech simple and short, and it must be included with a lesson or a transformation or anything that you expect the audience to learn or benefit from your talk. You may start the speech with an emphasis on the topic. Then you deliver your content, and last, you give your expectations or you give a lesson on what you are trying to say. Now, you grab the attention at the beginning and end the speech with a bang. You wake the audience up. You give them time to digest what you are trying to deliver. Now, this is my suggested speech outline. You may arrange your speech as shown here. You may screenshot it or whatever. Now, basic speech outlines, there are 5 elements for me. The first will be introduction. You introduce yourself and you bring the audience to the topic. Then you end the introduction part with an attention grabber. You grab the attention by asking a question, or maybe you voice out the thing that you want to say in a short, simple sentence. All right, at the end of the introduction. That is called attention grabber. Right? Now, then you go on with the body of the speech. In the body of the speech, you have to think that there are many points you are you want to include into your speech. However, an effective speech, you shouldn't be including too many points of it, right? You should build your speech based on clarity, not complexity. You shouldn't make it more complex. The more complex it is, the harder it is for you to present it, right? Now, it is tempting. Yes, I know it is tempting for you to include as much point as possible. Yes, I want to present as much points as possible. I want to voice out the things, but having a few strong points are always better than having tons of it, right? By having a short points, you are going to understand your points better. And you give the audience lesser things to digest. So the body should be organized in this way. First, you address the point, you go on with the elaboration, and you proceed with examples or the issues, the current issues, how it can be solved. All right, now when it comes to conclusion, you summarize your whole speech, and the last part will be call to action. That is what I have spoken just now about the lesson and the expectation, what you are trying to deliver, what you are trying to convey. You are expecting the audience to do what, right? Now, since we are having an organized speech, now we proceed with effective language. Now, by the means of effective language, which has been presented just now, will be simple and direct message. The message should be clear and precise, right? The word choices should be concrete and specific. You select the terms that are simple and brings out the most of what you are trying to say. The word should be concise, simple, and short. Right. Now you should avoid, remember, you must avoid hard pronounced terms. The first thing, we are not native speakers. Most of us are not native speakers of English language. So it might be a situation where we face difficulty in pronouncing a certain word. So avoid adding those words into your speech. Instead, you may use the synonym of that word, right? If you make the word too long, you will be facing difficulty in pronouncing the words, and you are making yourself more anxious, or you might make yourself nervous, right? Now, the next thing is you should avoid using vague meaning, overly abstract terms that may cause ambiguity. Now, the audience are having the hard time to digest your message if you are using words with many meanings, or it is overly abstract, especially if you are presenting in a topic that they are unfamiliar with. You are presenting in an unfamiliar topic, and yet you are using unfamiliar terms. So the audience might have hard time to digest what you are trying to convey. Now we move on to voice and body gestures. All right. Now, voice and body gestures, two elements, voice and body gestures. Now, the first thing, you have to be mindful of your body language. All right. Now, it accounts as much as 55% of the message received. And the right term selection brings out the real thoughts through body language. So if you choose your words wisely, if you choose your word concisely, you will be having confidence in speaking out of them. When you are confident, your body won't be showing signs of you are nervous. Now, I saw one comment just now about what about now we are presenting in front of the lens. Online, we are presenting online. Should we add in more body gestures or body language? Yes, you should, but in an adequate amount. You shouldn't be too over and you shouldn't be too less. Okay? Now, the next thing, in order to bring out the best of you, first thing first, the posture, your posture as a speaker should be relaxed and upright. You have to sit upright. You have to be relaxed. Your shoulders shouldn't be tight. And you should avoid shifting your weight from one foot to another. You shouldn't be swinging your shoulders from here and there. Because it is still visible, even though you are presenting through the lens. All right, even though you are recording, it is still visible. The slightest thing, it can be seen by the audience. All right, now the facial expression, you have to be genuine. You have to have a genuine smile and natural expression, but however, you shouldn't be showing signs of fear and nervous. You shouldn't be showing that. You should be showing a genuine smile since you are confident enough and you do understand your material. You should be showing a genuine smile, right? You shouldn't be a blank face or something that you are trying to engage with the audience now. Now, when it comes to establishing with your audience and winning their admiration, there is nothing more effective than a genuine smile. It shows the interest, your interest in your audience. You are trying to communicate with them. Right? Now, use it to, you should speak clearly and confidently and adjust your speech with different tones. You play with the tones. Use it to emphasize and provide highlight to the audience. All right. Now, I did notice one comment from the viewers. Do you need to apologize or something? Never apologize during the speech. Never apologize. Remember, you are controlling the stage and you shouldn't be apologizing for the mistakes that you have done. If you apologize, you disrupt your momentum, you disrupt the whole thing, and you may face difficulty in getting yourself back to the track. Right, now we look at the next slide. In order to bring out the best of you, you must have a speaker's confidence. Emotional state is often exposed in the tone of speech. In order to bring out the best speech, you should have a good tone of speech. The tone of speech is accounting for approximately 33% of the transmitted message, while it is only 7% for the actual words, the actual choice of words. The audience are more influenced by the speaker's tone and the voice quality. You are talking about the same thing and yet you use a different tone and it highlights a different emotion that you are trying to deliver. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that the choice of words are unimportant. It's not important, no. The choice of words are still important. However, it shows that the vocal cues to your listeners have been taken into consideration during the presentation. You consider their vocal cues. Now, as I have presented just now, you should avoid reading as it will bring out a flat tone. You will tend to have flat tones, monotonous tone with no variations. So the audience will perceive you as you don't know your field well, you don't know your topic well. So mastering your tone will make the speech more expressive and hypnotizing. Right, now the continuation. So we talk about the tones. Now here are the 5 P's to improve your speech clarity: projection, pace, pitch, pronunciation, and pause. There are 5 tips. All right. Now, the first one, projection. Avoid yelling or mumbling. You are not there to protest. You are not there to shout. You are trying to express, trying to convey your message, to raise the awareness and to talk about an issue. You are not there to mumbling either. You shouldn't be talking so low as if you are talking to yourself. We keep it loud and clear, right? Now, the next one will be the pace. Okay, the pace. The pace is being defined as the speed that we say our thoughts out loud. So during the speech, we should keep a steady pace and vary your pace to capture the attention. All right. Now, I do realize that the nervousness may disrupt the flow and pace. That is where good preparation comes in. If you are well prepared, you are more less likely to be feeling nervousness or anything. Then it won't be disrupting your flow. So how to keep a good pace? By having steady breathing. You should focus on the enunciation and reflect on the punctuation. You have your script. There are many punctuations, the full stop, the commas, and everything. You should be reflecting on those. Should I give a stop? Should I make it quicker? And how to detect your pace if it is too fast or too slow. Now, you may start by talking to your friends. You may start by talking to people around you and to see if they usually ask, I'm sorry, pardon me, could you repeat your word, please? If they happen to comment on your daily conversations as so, it may indicate that you are usually talking in quite a fast pace. All right, now next will be the pitch. The pitch will be defined as the placement of voice. Okay, you use different pitch to convey different messages. You highlight them. Now, different pitches convey shades of meaning such as emphasis and surprise. Right? You make it, the tone will be higher for surprise, or you make it low for them to get attention, to get the attention from the audience. Now, it also distinguishes a statement from a question. When it comes to a question, you may try to make it the tone higher at the end. You make it higher so that, oh, this is a question and not a statement. Now, there are 4 types of pitch changes. Okay, now the first one, you should be having a rising intonation. Right? The pitch rises over the time. This is where you start from your point and you want to enter the main part of your point. Right? You start with the introduction and everything. And when you are about to enter the real thing, the real important part, you try to have rising intonation. Falling intonation, pitch fall over the time. This is where you try to have informational statements. You are stating the facts, right? Sometimes people do get distracted or are uninterested with the facts that you are trying to convey. So you may try to give some informational facts statements by using a falling intonation. But however, I don't mean flat tone. Right now, the next one will be dipping intonation, which is the pitch fall and rises. The first will be the pitch fall and it rises. Right. This is the part where you ask question or you highlight a certain term. You go with a fall in your pitch and suddenly you end it with a high pitch. Right, now the last one will be the peaking intonation, which is the pitch rise and the pitch falls. Now these are 4 pitches that you may try to put into your speech. All right, next, the pause. The right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a right time pause. All right, now pauses means you shouldn't be, a pause means you won't be talking for that slight 1 or 2 seconds of anything, but you shouldn't be filling those with fillers. And it shows that you are having a lack of self-confidence. You are forgetting your script. You are nervous. So you shouldn't be showing, you shouldn't be speaking those fillers out. So instead of those fillers, there should be a silent pause. However, the pause can be, however, the pause shouldn't be too long or too dragging, as it might show that, oh, you really don't know what you're talking about. Right? Now, so you can use the pauses to bridge ideas. You can use those to underline the ideas, highlight the ideas. You can create anticipation for the next remark. Give the audience what you are trying to say next. All right? Now, and give time the audience to absorb the current idea that you have finished presenting. Right? So the pauses, there are many types of pauses. You can pause for 1 second, 2 seconds, or maybe you just pause for 5 seconds. Of course, I'm aware of the competitions where there is time limit. So you should take that into account as well. You should know that you are trying to not read a script. You are not trying to read a script, or you are not rushing for the time. You have to present your idea, but within the time. So don't rush. Keep some pauses in between, and good luck with your presentation. All right, now we go on with the preparation checklist. Now, before you start presenting to your audience, it is good for you to have a preparation checklist. All right, now you may screenshot this for your future users or anything. You ask yourself, how? You ask yourself, am I well prepared? Right, now that's the end of my first slot. I would like to go on with the overcoming anxiety. Madam Moderator, is that okay?
Hi, Mr. Williams. Sorry, I missed out that part there. Okay, so I just have a few questions here. I see
Yes.
that I think you have been answering some of the questions as well. So I just want to let all the audience know that we are actually trying our level best to actually make a note of the questions that you guys have been asking. There are about 10 questions that we have actually shortlisted. So we are going to move on to the last slot, which is slot number 4, overcoming anxiety. Okay, so so far I think whatever that Mr. Williams said is quite clear for us. How are we going to prepare a good checklist, and so any other questions you can just put it up in the chat box there. Thank you, Mr. William. I think your explanation is quite clear. Can we move on to slot number 4, sir? Is that
All right.
okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Now, for the last slot of today's talk, I will be talking about overcoming anxiety. Now, anxiety means anxious, nervousness, or you feel uneasy of your current state. Right? Now, what are the normal symptoms that you have when you are having anxiety? What are the normal symptoms or normal occurrence that you have when you are having nervousness? You may comment in the chat box in YouTube. Right. Now, so before the speech, during the preparational stage, you should be practicing is vital. You have to know your materials from inside out. You have to know your materials from by heart, right? Now you have to rehearse your presentations multiple times, many times. right? Even people who are comfortable speaking in public, they do rehearse their speeches many times to get them right. You should practice your speech maybe like 10, 20, or 30 times. You make it more, the more the better actually. Now, and it will give you the confidence that you have the ability to deliver a good speech. So practice is vital. All right. Also, you may try to record your presentation and playing it back to evaluate which part you should improve on. Should I improve on the tones, on the pace, or whatever that I may find out from my recordings? All right, you listen to your own recordings and you try to share it with your friends, or people around you, so that they might provide an honest feedback. Now, it may be helpful for you to practice your speech in front of those people that you are less familiar with, but not a big audience actually, just a few people that you are less familiar with, right? Friends might give you an honest opinion. However, they might not be able to speak up directly to you because it might hurt your feeling. So you try to do it with those people with you are less familiar with. All right, know your materials by heart. The better you understand what you're talking about, the more you care about the topic, the less likely you will make a mistake or get off the track, right? So you won't be going astray. Now, and if you do really get lost during the process, you will be able to recover the whole thing quickly. Nothing helps to ease your fear of the public speaking more than knowing your material. If you know your material well, you shouldn't be having problems or nervousness speaking and during presenting, right? The ability to connect with your audience comes from having your confidence, comes from having a good confidence level, so you can try to communicate well with the audience. Now, the next thing is watching other speakers. Now, it sounds like I'm trying to copy their style. No, I'm not trying to copy their style. I go and learn. I try to improve and to adapt their style to become mine, right? Now, you may attend their speeches. You may watch those motivational speeches, motivational talkers and everything. Or you may go on the internet, you search for the video clips and you try to see what are the strengths of the speakers. And you may notice also about the audience response. You see the speaker, if they say this part with a high tone, what will the audience react? If they speak it with a suspense tone, what will the audience react? What are their reactions? Okay. Now the next one, you have to be positive. You have to brainwash yourself. That is quite important. You have to brainwash yourself. You have to be positive, right? Not oppressing your nervousness or anything, but you have to be positive, thinking that you can do it, right? You must avoid bearing the mindset of fear of failing, right? You must have the confidence in what you are going to present. Since you are well prepared, you know what you are going to present. If you are in an overthinking state, you have failed before the speech even started, right? Now, how to challenge your worries. Now, nervousness is normal, anxiety is normal, and you have to challenge them. When you are afraid of something, you may overestimate the likelihood of bad things. You may over-exaggerate it. You may overthink it. Okay, now, so in order to overcome it, you have to list down your points. Write it down. Write it down on a piece of paper and you answer them one by one. What should I do to overcome this fear? What should I do to overcome sweaty palms? What should I do to overcome if I tend to forget my speech? You have to list those worries down, right? And you answer them one by one. You are trying to answer your own question. Now, on the speech delivering day, on that day itself, for me, in my opinion, you should do some exercise, some light exercise. Right, now light exercise means you exercise earlier in the day prior to your presentation to boost your endorphins. When you exercise, you feel happy, you feel you are more energetic, okay, which will help you to divert your attention from anxiety to happiness. And it helps to reduce your anxiety level. It does help. So exercise, simple exercise. You are not going for a sports competition. You are not competing in a sports event. So simple exercise will do, and with normal stretching and with some jumping jacks are sufficient, right? Now, and you can start by dressing well. You should dress appropriately. You should dress formally. You shouldn't be dressing those you shouldn't be dressing those attire that are inappropriate to the event. Okay, you should always dress yourself well. Right, now the next will be you should start by setting up early and adjust to your surrounding. So if you are competing face to face, you should be in that location, the venue, early. Right, now since we are having online competitions, you should be in your place in front of the camera early enough so that you can adjust, okay, even though you are presenting through the lens. Now, it is always best to allow yourself to have plenty of time to settle in before your talk. The more adjusted to your environment, the more comfortable you feel. You feel comfortable with the surrounding you have. Right? Make sure to spend time in the room that you are going to present in. If you present in the hall, try to reach there early and you try to present it in front of an empty hall. All right? Or you can, if you are presenting at home online, you may just choose one room and you present it like normal, like you do in the real presentation stage. You try to be comfortable with the surrounding. Okay, you try to be comfortable with the lighting and you try to practice with the microphones and everything. Now, you should be aware that what will happen, what might be the potential distractions in that venue. If you are presenting in the hall, will there be any potential distractions? Maybe the sounds of the horns, the vehicles, or anything. Or if you are presenting at your own place, do you have any phones ringing around you, or do you have any dogs barking, or any arguments around with your neighbors? You should take note of that. If that venue is not suitable, you switch. Right. Now, the next one will be drinking water and hit the bathroom. Now, it may sound ridiculous, but in research, if you drink water, if you take sips of water, I'm not talking about you drink in a large volume. You just take sips of water and you hit the bathroom before the event starts. It does help for you to release your anxiety, you release your stress, right? Dry mouth. When you are nervous, you are having dry mouth is a common result of anxiety. When you are having dry mouth, your mouth isn't producing much saliva that it should be, and you will face hard times to pronounce your words because your throat is dry, your vocal box is dry. Now, so you have to keep yourself and stay hydrated and drinking waters. So hitting a bathroom means, of course, you do your business and everything. Now, and you should be washing your face. It is advisable to wash your face before you start, so you get yourself freshened up. Okay, since everything is done, everything is well prepared, now you go on with relax by breathing. Now, when you are feeling anxious, you might notice that your heart rate and your breathing gets a bit faster. You may also begin to feel dizzy and you are sweaty. You have sweaty palms, sweaty forehead. And when you are anxious, getting your breathing under control can relax both of your body and mind. So you have to control your breathing. To get your breathing under control, you may try these steps, all right? You may try these steps. The first one is you sit in a quiet and comfortable place. You try to blank yourself up. Number two, you take slow and regular breath. Slow and regular breath, not deep breath, but regular breath. Breathe in through your nose. You shouldn't be breathing in through your mouth. And you should breathe them out. You should exhale it through your mouth slowly. Right? Now, you should focus on your exhale, and by taking small sips of air on inhales and extending your exhales, you will start to calm down. You will start to calm down. Repeat this process for a few times and you may discover that your anxiety level has gone down. Right, the last part of my speech is, the last part of my talk will be talking about during the speech delivering process. Now, the first thing when you are on the stage, you are presenting, smile. The genuine smile, what I have presented just now. Now, smiling increases endorphins and it replaces the anxiety with calmness, with making you feel good about your presentations, right? Genuine smiles, natural face expression, it shows your real thoughts and it also exhibits confidence and enthusiasm of you towards the crowd. So, but don't overdo it. That's my advice. All right, next, pauses. Working on your pauses. Pauses are a natural part of your conversation and using them in speaking to allow you to have a more trustworthy and genuine image. Everyone pauses during conversation. Normal conversation, daily conversation, everyone pauses. Okay, so pause when you feel so. You understand your material, you pause when you feel you need to pause, right? Now, great public speakers often use the pause for 2 or 3 seconds or maybe longer, right? Now, it is a useful strategy to vary your length of pauses. Some may take a few seconds, some may take 1 second. At some point, try a slight pause to collect yourself, to drag yourself back onto the track. Sometimes you are astray without knowing it. So having a pause will get you back on track. Now, it also creates an effective suspense, and the suspense can create interest among your audience. The audience will want to find out, they have the interest to find out the conclusion of what will be happening next if you pause before the punchline or the conclusion. Right. The next one will be don't fight the fear. Don't fight the fear. Nervousness is normal. You you are having anxiety, that is normal. Everyone has it. It is in our body, in our mind. So don't fight against it. You have to use it and turn it to be your advantage, right? You have to focus your fear and switch it to become your strength. Now, do not fight your fear, accept your fear rather than trying to fight it. Focusing too much on your fear will make people wondering, are you an expert on the topic? And the more you focus on your fear, the more you have, the more anxiety that you will have. So focus on your facts. Don't focus on your fear. If you are well prepared, you'll feel confident and less fear. You just go on fine. All right. Okay. Now I think that's the conclusion of my second slot. Okay, which is overcoming anxiety. Now, if you do have some, all right, here's a short quizzes for you. Now, what are the 5 basic speech elements? What are the 5 P's to improve your speech clarity? During speech presentation, your posture should be. Now, the last one will be name one way to overcome anxiety. All right, this is just a fun quiz and for you to answer. All right, I think that's the end of my second part. I would like to hand over the session back to Madam. All right, Madam Moderator.
Hi, sir. Okay, thank you, Mr. William. Thank you for the last slot there. Okay, so I think there are about 12 questions that we have actually shortlisted. Okay, and myself, Madam Sharleena, and also Mr. William will try our best to actually answer the questions, as the questions are mainly coming from the students themselves, and there are some questions from the teachers as well. Okay, so my dear speakers, I think can we try to answer those questions? So we are okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I believe that some of the questions that has been posted in the chat section there, some of the questions answers have already been covered by the speakers. Actually, if you actually listen carefully, you can actually find the answers in the slides that they have presented. All right. Okay, but no worries about that. There are some questions, so we have finally shortlisted 12 questions, which we would actually try to answer. We have got about half an hour to have a Q&A session with everyone. All right, so if you have any other questions, and then you can actually ask us here. Just don't ask us what's the third keyword, okay? Because we are only going to share that at the end of the session, at the end of the question and answer session. All right, okay. Now, let's look at the first question. The first 2 questions, I would actually cover that. Okay, I would like to thank Miss Rishima. I believe she's a student. Okay, the first question that she asked us is, how many points do we need to talk in a speech? Okay, now the answer to this is we can never actually have like a preset amount of a point that we can actually talk. All right, okay, because the length of the speech actually depends. It can be a 5-minute speech, or it can be a 10-minute speech. So the number of points are actually flexible. There isn't like, oh, you have to talk 10 or you have to talk just 5. So it's not really like that. But what you can do is you can actually have introduction. You can have an introduction. You can also have a few points that covers maybe, let's say, strength or weaknesses, some explanation, and then you finish it off with some suitable conclusion. Okay, but when you ask me how many points, there isn't a specific set of points that you need to talk. All right, okay, thank you, Rishima, for the question. And now we're going to move on to the second question. Are movements advisable if the speech is recorded. Okay. The answer to this is actually in the slide. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. William actually shared it. I'm not too sure whether it's
Yes,
in Mr. William's slide or yeah, it's in
yes,
your
I
slide,
did.
right? Ah, yes, okay. So, well, as when you talk about movement for public speaking is quite limited in the sense that you don't move around a lot, like like you are in an action song or storytelling or like that. So for public speaking, the movement is quite limited. At the same time, you cannot be like static like a robot or something because it's not a robot competition. It's public speaking, so you just have to have your normal body language when you're talking to someone, especially when you're trying to convince someone. Okay, so that's it for the first two questions. For question 3 and 4, Madam Sharleena would actually give us an answer for that. Okay, so question 3 and 4, Madam Sharleena, can you help us?
Okay, question 3 says, how can we make our... Can you hear me? Mic is on, right? How
Yes.
can we make our public speaking more engaging online versus offline? Can you give us some more ideas? Okay, so as Mr. William and I have spoken earlier about grabbing attention of the audience and making our speech more engaging. But if you want to compare offline and online, I guess the difference between offline public speaking and online public speaking is that offline you are face to face with them and they can clearly see you, whereas in online public speaking you are just in the screen. They probably can just see half of you, like how you are seeing us right now. So make sure that your hand gestures, number one, make sure your hand gestures, your body movement, because they are very limited, try to make sure they all fit in the screen. Okay, number one. Number two, of course, all the technical elements that you have to take into consideration, like the volume. Right now, if I speak louder, instead of speaking louder, I can just increase the volume or of my mic, and avoid all these distracting elements in your public speaking, like the background noises. Make sure you find a place that is quiet, and a background that is a physical background that is plain and clear, not so distracting. Sometimes when people watch you online, they tend to look at the background. Where are you? Which part of the house are you in? What's that background noises? And yeah, that can be really distracting. And thirdly, um, when you address your audience, because I think online public speaking is pre-prepared. Am I right, Madam Moderator? That means you have recorded it previously, or are you presenting it live?
Okay, we have two sessions. We have the prepared speech as well as the impromptu. So the top 14 would actually be going for the impromptu. But of course, you need to know in both ways lah, how to deliver it on real time as well as the recorded version.
Okay, I guess the recorded version is much more easier, and you'll probably not be as nervous or afraid. In case you make any mistakes, you can always do it over. So the bigger question will be impromptu, how to appear calm and collected. Yes, I think it's easier offline than online. Yeah, so once again, just go back to the tips that we have presented, like telling a story, using quotes, asking questions, although they don't have to answer, the rhetorical questions. Maybe you can also use visual aids if that's advisable. I'm not sure if in competitions, but generally in online public speakings, we use visual aids like graphs and charts and things like that to make the audience more engaged. So that was for question 3. Okay, moving on to question 4. Can you explain about the time duration of a speech? Okay, this is in general public speaking or for competition public speaking? If it's public speaking in general, the time duration it is up to you. Depends on how much the time that is allocated to you. But in general, a very lengthy public speaking is difficult to grab the attention of the audience. They might get distracted, and people's attention span these days are very short. We should always remember that. So avoid giving lengthy public speeches. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Sharleena. Yes, like what Sharleena shared earlier. Okay, for our English Carnival JPN Melaka's competition, for that we have a specific time, 4 to 6 minutes. Okay, but yeah, of course, that's the rules and regulation for our competition. But when you go for public speaking in general, the time actually varies depending on the organizer, depending on what they're looking for. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to the fifth question. Question 4 was asked by a student called Rishima as well. And question number 5. Okay. Can you give an example of an inconsequential detail? Okay. I think Mr. William can help us to answer that because I saw the detail in his slide actually. Sir, can you help us with that?
Okay, sure. Okay, now the thing is inconsequential details means the less important points, those unimportant points. You shouldn't be adding too much points within, too much elaboration within a point. So you shouldn't be putting lengthy elaborations or explanations and everything. That is unimportant. If you look for the definition of inconsequential, it means that unimportant. So make your speech simple and clear, direct and straightforward. Right? That I hope that answers your question for the question 5. Does that answering?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, sir. Now let's move on to the next question. Question by Mr. Jovin. Any examples on the attention grabber? Like what type of words are good? I believe Mr. William, again, you will be the right person to answer this.
Okay, thank you. So the examples of attention grabbers, like you should use the terms like what should we do, what should we, what has to be done, what to be, the things that you have to use, the steps, the things that you have to do to solve the problem. Now that is attention grabber because if you try to speak it in an organized way, it should end with a question in your introduction. What should we do? Or you try to give a preview for the audience of what you are trying to convey in your body, in your speech body. So attention grabber is maybe a sentence of a question or a just simple sentence you further highlighting it, like things we are supposed to do, things we should do to solve the problem, things we can know, and it goes on as so. Okay, the attention grabber. Right. I hope that answers you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you for the explanation, Mr. William. I would like to add something to that question as well. Okay,
Right.
sometimes when we say public speaking, in order to get attention, I've personally seen some of the speakers. They actually start with a question. You just give out a question to actually get your speaker to think about what you're going to talk. And I've
Mm.
also seen some of the speakers, they actually start with a riddle. They actually start with a riddle. So it's just like a first step to actually get your audience to reach out to you so that they can relate to whatever you're going to try to talk. So riddles can be a good way, questions can be a good way. I've seen even a public speaker. He actually started the speech by laughing out aloud because the speech is about humor. So she actually started the speech by actually laughing out aloud. She just gets everyone to think, why is she laughing actually? So that's when she started talking about her topic. Whatever method that you choose, the main thing here is grab the attention of your audience. So that's the only thing that you need to do. All right. So and now let's move on to the next question by Alicia and also Chok. How do we avoid pauses when giving speech? Madam Sharleena, can you help us?
Okay, I presented on pauses earlier. Pauses are not something that you have to avoid. In fact, if you use it correctly, it can be very effective for your speech. However, if you're talking about pauses where you suddenly lost your train of thought and then you just stop like that, if that's the kind of pause you're talking about, then the only tip is practice, of course. Okay, the more you practice, not only what you're going to say, but how you're going to think in a systematic and logical manner, all that comes with much practice. So there's no one thing that you can do, or however, if notes help you, that can be helpful as well. Maybe you have an outline or a draft note, so in case you lost your train of thought and then you just look at a keyword and you remember back and then you can just go with it. Okay, so yeah, remember, don't avoid pauses, use them strategically.
Thank you, Madam Sharleena. Yes, I think it's quite clear that everyone has a misconception saying that pauses are not good. But one thing that we overlook is that pauses are natural. They're completely natural. It happens in everywhere in normal conversation too. Okay, all right. Now let's move on to question number 8 by Siti Hanisa. Do we have to repeat ladies and gentlemen throughout the speech? I don't think that would be necessary actually, because imagine you're talking and every 2 minutes you just say ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. So it's gonna be a bit redundant and probably quite annoying, I guess.
Yes.
Right? So you just use it sparingly, like how you use salt in your food. Like you cannot eat without your salt, but at the same time, if you overdo it, then that food is gonna be like too salty. So same thing. Don't overdo your ladies and gentlemen. It's just like a finger snap for you to get back your audience focusing at you. But so use it sparingly. And now let's look at the next question. Okay, Siti Hanisa, I hope you got your answer. And the next question is it's from Nia. Should we speak loudly or nicely? Whenever someone says speak clearly, sometimes we get the wrong info. It means they try to speak louder. But the point is not that we want you to speak louder. It's just that speaking with clarity is different than speaking with a louder tone. And of course, we need to be nice to the audience, not just the audience. When you are talking in general, we should always try to have a positive conversation with someone. So loudly or nicely, I would say talk nicely, okay, respectfully. All right, okay. All right, and now let's look at the next question. The next question is from, this is a very popular question from a lot of the chat box, from a lot of the viewers. What do we need to do when we make a mistake during a speech? Is there a good way to cover it? Okay, so this is a very popular question. I think everyone is very conscious about making mistakes. So, Madam Sharleena, can you give us some insights on this?
Okay, I guess it depends on what kind of mistake you made. As Mr. William presented earlier, he said don't apologize, which is true, because it can affect your credibility as a speaker, in the sense that you seem that like you were not sure about what you're speaking, or you're not a good public speaker. But if you're talking about mispronounced words, sometimes there's a slip of a tongue. Yes, that one you have to acknowledge. Otherwise, your audience will think that you didn't know that the right way to pronounce it, right? You have to go back to the word. So you can maybe say pardon me, and then start back. Okay. Apart from that, what kind of mistakes are we talking about?
Okay, what if the mistake is something like something related to the facts? You realize halfway through the speech that you actually told something that's not true. So how do we cover that?
Okay, so if it was a prepared speech, then you probably won't have this mistake. But if you've told a wrong fact to your explanation, you still have to go back to clarify. It's not ethical. In public speaking, there's this thing called ethics. So once you have said something that is not true to your audience, you have to clarify it. You have to go back to it and say it with confidence and say it with respect, but don't sound clumsy as you're going back to it. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Madam Sharleena. Yeah, mistakes in general, we can't really avoid it. Okay, who doesn't make mistake, right? Am I right? So mistakes are normal. It's parts and parcels of our thing. So, but what makes it get back even is that how we are going to come back to it. All right. So ethics is a good word that we have learned today, Madam Sharleena. Thank you. And let's move on to the next question. From Mr. Ma, how do we pace ourselves when we are nervous? Can you help us on this?
Hello?
Uh,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, I'll repeat the question again.
Okay.
It's from Mr. Ma. How do we pace ourselves when we are nervous?
Okay, how do we pace ourselves if we are nervous? First, when you are having, as I have spoken before, nervousness and anxiety is normal. So you shouldn't be having, but overloading of nervousness or overloading of anxiety will affect your speech. So the first thing is not about controlling your pace. The first thing is you have to control your level of anxietiness. All right, you have to control your level of nervousness before you control your pace. If you are having a normal level of nervous or anxiety level, then you should be having no problem in controlling your pace. So if you do have a conflict between the pace and the anxiety or the nervousness, control your nervous first. You should take breaths, take regular breathing, not deep breathe, not deep breathing. You should take regular breathe. You breathe regularly. You exhale it. You calm yourself down, and then only you get back to what you are trying to present. All right, and you may control your pace. So control your nervousness. Only then you can control your pace. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the explanation. Let's move on to the last question. Is accent crucial in delivering a speech? Okay, I think this one we might have an open, opinion. But from my opinion, I actually feel that accent is not important because, everyone have their own accent. As long as you don't fake it, I think it's quite fine. The goal here is for your audience to understand you, what you're trying to say, understand your points. That's about it. It's not about how's your accent. It doesn't automatically mean when someone speaks in a particular accent they are a good public speaker. So elements of public speaking is really wide, like in terms of your body language, the content of your speech, and how you deliver it, the pauses and all. But if you ask me, I would actually put accent slightly lower in the level of importance, actually, because the goal is for your audience to understand what you're trying to say. Yeah, so that's about it. Thank you for these questions. And anything else that the speakers, Mr. William, Madam Sharleena, that you want to add? Anything you want to add on?
Not really. Not really. I'm looking through the comments here. Not really. Okay, there's one question that attracts me. How can we attract the public? How can we attract the audience to focus on our speech, usually in front of the public, when we see the audience doing their own things and do not focus on ours? We might lose our confidence. Now, that is a good question. When you are having right, when you are having a face-to-face competition, okay, you see the audience are not paying attention to you, you feel demotivated. So instead of focusing those who are demotivated, who has already lost interest in your speech, why don't you focus on the other person? All right, you focus on those who are still paying attention to you. You seek around the hall, you seek around the audience. Not everyone is losing attention. There might be someone is still listening to what you are trying to talk. So why don't you ignore those who tend to give up on your talk you pay attention to those who are still listening to you. They are the one you should be focusing on instead of those losing interest. They might be losing interest not because of your speech, maybe they feel sick, or maybe they just have a message coming in from their phones and everything. They might have distractions. So instead of focusing on them, just focus on the audience that are still listening to you. You find yourself, you have to look around the hall. So don't focus on one point only. All right, that's the thing that I would like to add on, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. William. Thank you so much. Okay, we just have another question here from Farhan. What are the indicators for being out of topic? I'm afraid I don't quite really understand what Farhan asked, but I'll try to answer from what I understand. Indicators for being out of topic is that is it from the speaker or what? I'm not very sure actually. Farhan, maybe if you can clarify, we can actually get someone to answer your question. Okay, but generally for prepared speech to be out of topic is quite difficult because you will have a substantial amount of time to actually prepare the speech, and then you'll be delivering it, meaning you have time to actually look through what you are saying in the speech, okay, the content of your speech. But as for impromptu, you might be slightly out of topic if you misinterpreted the topic that they have given you. But again, I would say that interpretation is something that is general, one person might not interpret something in the same way, exact same way that another person does. So I guess it's quite open and wide, because it's open to the way how someone interprets it. And if you have, and there's someone who asked, can you give few example of impromptu topics in a competition? I think there's plenty of impromptu topics that you can actually find here in online. Some simple topics like health or wealth, which one is better? How to be a good speaker? That can be part of your public speaking topic as well. And there's another question from Sharleena. If I'm filming short vlog competition, should I apply those tips? Well, I would say whatever that our speakers shared here today, it's not only for public speakers, but you can also apply these things in your daily life. Actually, it can be anything, because in our daily life we are generally doing the public speaking, but it's just in an informal and sometimes in a formal setting. When you go somewhere and you convince someone, that's public speaking actually, because you're convincing a group of people, So I'm glad to say that whatever that our speakers shared here today, we can actually use it in our daily lives, and not just for this public speaking competition alone. Okay, thank you guys, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank Madam Margaret and also Madam Sunita. Madam Margaret have been, putting up the points and notes in the chat box, and also I would like to thank Madam Sunita. She's the Pengerusi Technical Public Speaking Sekolah Menengah for Negeri Melaka. Thank you, Madam. Thank you for helping us in the chat box. I know some of the kids are really being unruly here, but let's not go about it. And thank you so much for helping and joining us in this workshop. We have a last 5 minutes. At the same time, before I finish off, thank you for the ICT team, Mr. Amir as well as Mr. Tiba. Thank you for helping us with this YouTube live. Of course, we are the delivery part. Some people you get to see them on screen, and some people they're always at the back. So those people are Mr. Tiba and Mr. Amir. Thank you so much. And thank you to Mr. Khairiman for pushing us to conduct this workshop. This is definitely something, an eye-opening experience for the parents, the teachers, as well as the students as well. Thank you so much. And we have the last 5 minutes. Hang on for the keyword, okay? Last 5 minutes, okay? The best thing is going to end. So I'll give you the keyword at the end. I know everyone is like, waiting to just tell me the last keyword, but so just wait. Any last questions you can type out in the chat box. Do it now and don't regret. Type out now if you have any questions.
Okay. Can I voice out a question? I saw it previously.
Yes, can, sir.
Okay. Okay. Someone is asking, is public speaking a good public speaking skill, an inborn talent, or it is being nurtured? Nature and nurture means like if you are born with good public speaking skill, and in my opinion, that is incorrect. Public speaking skills are not an inborn talent. You are not born with that talent. You are having that skill. That is because you practice it. You prepare all your materials, you believe in yourself and you believe in your material. That is how you get a good presentation skill. And good public speaking skill is not an inborn talent. All right, that's all I can find from.
I would like to add on that, Mr. William.
Yes.
I would like to, I have to agree with you that it is not an inborn talent, because public speaking skill is not just a matter of how well you can speak, but also how well you can organize your thoughts, how well you can persuasive skills, persuasion skills, how you can inform your audience at the same time persuading them. So all this definitely comes with much practice. Maybe you can be born with the inborn ability to be good with words. That one, yes, but that is not equivalent to being born a good public speaker. Okay, so as you know, even some of the most accomplished public speakers, they feel nervous, even although they have had a lot of experience, a lot of practice, and even they feel nervous. So it is not a matter of just throwing out a public speech and being good at it. There's a lot more to it. That's all.
Thank you, Madam Sharleena, and also Mr. William. Yeah, that's a good explanation, actually. Good question, too. Thank you to the person who asked the question. Well, if you think, so what I'm trying to say is, I think this is the best finishing to the workshop here, the last question. I think if you ever think that, I'm not a good public speaker, I can't talk, I'm not good with my words, so I think the workshop today would have actually bring us down to a conclusion where you do not have to be naturally talented to be a public speaker, but it's up to you how you are going to work on yourself, how you're going to organize your content and ideas to improve and be the best public speaker as you can. All right, so thank you, Madam Sharleena and Mr. William, and thank you to the audience for the questions and also everyone. And the last, I believe that we are actually at the end of the workshop. So it's about time for me to actually tell out aloud the last keyword. Can the speakers do the honor this time around? Is that okay?
Wait, I also forgot to say.
Madam
Okay.
Sharleena?
Yes. Okay, so the third keyword is confidence.
Okay, yes, confidence. Okay, confidence is the last keyword. With the last keyword, we would like to end the workshop. Thank you again, everyone. Okay. Thanks. Bye. If you want to watch this, you can actually. This YouTube link is actually recorded. Whenever you think you miss us, you can actually watch this. You just want to see the handsome Mr. William, beautiful Madam Sharleena. You can actually watch the video again. And whenever you think you are stuck, you feel you need that extra boost. You can always rewatch this. All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you everyone. Bye.